now it is my great pleasure to call upon Samantha Power, Special Assistant to President Obama and Senior Director for Multilateral Affairs at the National Security Council. And let me say how pleased we are to have Samantha with us this evening. She's truly one of the most eloquent voices in the world today on behalf of those struggling for human rights.
Thank you. I'm completely humbled to be here. First and foremost, because of the people who are being honored today, tonight, this week, hopefully going forward. As the President's Senior Advisor for Human Rights, I should say that I find myself asking, certainly daily and even hourly, as we think about policy choices and decisions, what would Carl do? What would Ned do? Usually, by the time I get back to my computer, there's an email or a voicemail telling me what Carl would do. But you know you have become a force of goodness and a force of Washington when you actually, as an institution and as an individual, have become a voice inside the heads of people who live inside the Situation Room. Situation Room is a room with no windows and clocks, and yet there is Carl. These Congresswomen who have just spoken, and it's probably not a coincidence that there are these powerhouse women who've spoken in this powerhouse way on behalf of this issue. Number one, I see why you win your elections. And one of the things that made it so gratifying to sit and hear your words and the force of your convictions is just knowing that you do represent your constituents. This is where the American people are. They are with the people who are the recipients of this award tonight, and it's great to have the voices of the people represented in this building and up on Capitol Hill here beside us. We haven't heard yet from Azar, but all I can say is it takes a very rare individual to become the soul of two countries, and that is what Azar is. So I have come here tonight on behalf of President Obama to honor the remarkable recipients of this award and to convey his deep commitment to democracy and human rights in Iran. Few events in any of our lifetimes have grabbed our imagination or rivaled in importance the spontaneous, self-generated movement for political change that began or manifested itself last summer in Iran. Each of us, for the rest of our lives, will remember where we were last June when the Iranian people demonstrated with dignity and staggering courage. Each of us will remember for the rest of our lives where we were when a people imbued with this rich and proud tradition stood up to claim the rights that they knew were theirs, the right to assemble peacefully, the right to speak and communicate, the right to have their votes counted, the right, as President Obama often likes to talk about, quoting Franklin Roosevelt, to live free of fear and free of want. I personally had just given birth to my first child, Declan, 6 weeks before the events of a year ago. And I was on leave, sitting in front of the television, helpless and also completely transfixed by the images out of Tehran. I, and I'm sure many of you share this feeling, felt something similar to what I felt in November 1989, watching Eastern Europeans climb a previously forbidding cement wall and shout out to the heavens their hard-won freedoms. Just as I now remind myself, and try to do this as often as I can, of my generation's great fortune to live in a world without the Berlin Wall, I found it thrilling last year to imagine my young son inheriting a world in which the children of Iran would henceforth live with the freedoms that my little boy was blessed to be able to take for granted. All across Iran, in urban hubs and rural outposts. Students, construction workers, shopkeepers, lawyers, farmers, parents, teenagers, siblings, cousins, the old, the young, the men, the women, the political, the apolitical, came together, jamming boulevards and country lanes, tweeting or penning old-fashioned handwritten letters to ask for what was theirs. The best signal of their discipline was their silence. As a journalist friend of mine in Tehran put it, anger distilled to a wordless essence. Anger distilled to a wordless essence. The best signal of their determination was their refusal to go away. The Iranian people have been brutally suppressed by teenagers bussed into cities with clubs and helmets, by tear gas and assassinations, incarceration and rape, the techniques of the sabak recycled, and the lies of foreign involvement, the lies of NED faking her death, websites blocked, truth, the ultimate enemy of this regime, negated. And yet, the protests continue in large and small ways. Police with green armbands, shops and bazaars closed down to protest the executions of Kurdish activists, men dressing up in women's headscarves to mimic and protest the antics of this regime. Iranians risking their lives to broadcast or text words or images of injustice to the rest of the world. The Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran embraces the universal right of individuals to have a say in how they are governed. It mandates the direct election of the president by a vote of the people. These are universal rights, and they are Iranian rights. We are delighted that the National Endowment for Democracy has chosen to honor those fighting for democracy and human rights in Iran with its annual Democracy Award this year. Make no mistake, the spontaneous indigenous movement for human rights and democracy in Iran is not a movement generated here or by anybody else outside of Iran. It is a movement created and fueled by Iranians inside Iran who are frustrated with the actions of their government and who are seeking to exercise their natural-born universal rights. Iranians will decide the future of their country, and President Obama believes, as everybody here tonight believes, that the day in which they will do so will soon come. I would now like to read a statement that the President gave me before I came over. His comments will also be publicly released, but this is his monument to those being honored here tonight and this week. Saturday will mark 1 year from the day that an election captivated the attention of the world, an election that should have been remembered for how the Iranian people participated with remarkable enthusiasm in a democratic process, but which will instead be remembered for how the Iranian government brutally suppressed dissent and murdered the innocent, including a young woman left to die in the street. Over the course of this year, the people of Iran have sought to exercise their universal rights. They've been met with beatings in the street, imprisonment without cause, and false accusations that they served a foreign interest rather than their own interest in a better, freer life. The courage of so many Iranians in the face of severe repression is inspiring. It reminds us of democratic movements that over the years have brought greater freedom and respect for universal rights to every region of the world. It causes us to look forward to the day when Iranians will be able to speak freely, assemble without fear, and express their views without facing retribution. A day when the Iranian government will represent and foster, rather than fear, instead the aspirations of its own people. It is the responsibility of all free people and free nations to make it clear that we are on the side of those who seek freedom, justice, and dignity, as surely as hope and history are. The courage of the Iranian people stands as an example to us all, and it challenges us to continue our efforts to bend the arc of history in the direction of justice. Thank you very much.